Sounds good.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for taking your time to be here tonight. I'm going to go over the human resources component here. I sent to you this past weekend 2 files. One is the pre-test and one is the PowerPoint presentation I put together from the information Jerry provided from the previous study groups. The PowerPoint information is detailed. It's about 46, 47 pages. There's some good information in it, but there's also some information that I'm not sure is quite what they talk about is going to be part of the test. What I'm showing on the screen right now is from the examination outline as to, for the HR section, the areas of knowledge that they're expecting from us. Knowledge about performance management systems, i.e. performance-based evaluation reward systems, discipline, policies and procedures. They want us to know knowledge of recruitment techniques, knowledge of selection techniques, knowledge of labor relations strategies and tactics, knowledge of staffing methodologies and productivity management, and they're talking about acuity-based staffing, flexible staffing, and fixed staffing. They're looking for a knowledge of employee satisfaction measurements and improvement techniques, knowledge of motivational techniques, and knowledge of compensation benefits practices, a knowledge of worker safety, security, employee health issues, i.e. OSHA and workers' compensation, and knowledge of conflict resolution and grievance procedures. So it's a pretty extensive list of things that they are looking for. The PowerPoint also included information that we've already gone over for medical staff credentialing, which I wasn't quite sure needed to be replicated, but I sent it out to you anyway. On the PowerPoint, I did go over, let me pop up here. The various areas. Again, work functions of a human resource management, workforce planning, workforce maintenance, management education, compensation management, collective bargaining, continuous improvement, and budgeting. Those are the areas that they cover more in detail in the PowerPoint. But again, it's very detailed. And when I started going through the pre-test also, the pre-test was not necessarily in line with some of the stuff from the PowerPoint. But I think as a whole, we'll at least cover most of the stuff from a pre-test because we'll talk about some of the supporting information in the pre-test itself that is covered in the PowerPoint. I don't know if anybody had a chance to go over the PowerPoint. If anybody has any questions on it, I'd be more than happy to go over any of it in detail. But I thought, again, we'd go back to working through the issues on the pre-test itself. Does anybody have any questions on the PowerPoint? Okay, let me flip to the pre-test. And I will tell you that I had, even as a human resources executive, I had trouble with some of these pre-test questions, as we've had with some of the other ones, of being a little ambiguous and not necessarily clear. So I tried to, when possible, get as much detail from looking either through the books available or through what I have as resources to try to get as much detail as possible. So I'll start with number 1, and then if we can just rotate through the other ones, if everybody's okay with that.
Sure.
Okay, first one. The major value of job analysis is that it is A, used to establish wage levels, B, the best method of identifying the needs for employees, C, the cornerstone of human resource management activities, D, valid for a long period of time. Well, going through MIA's criteria is what doesn't make sense and what may be more obvious. I took out D, valid for a long period of time, and I took out B, the best method of identifying the needs of employees, because that's not necessarily what job analysis is. So I was left with A, used to establish wage levels, which job analysis is, but the question was the major value of job analysis. And though I struggled with the cornerstone of human resource management activities, I wasn't quite sure that I would ever identify it as the cornerstone. The answer that they do provide is C, the cornerstone. So this started me off as the first question, saying, okay, where were they coming from that? And I could not find anywhere in any of the literature, at least that I have accessible to me, that it identifies itself as the cornerstone. But just as a baseline, job analysis is used in a lot of different methods for HR work. Job analysis is used to determine what is the appropriateness of a job description. Job analysis is used for determining wage evaluations. It's used to what I call for comparison purposes. How do you stack for compensation, how one job is valued versus another job? So there's a lot of good use that comes out of job analysis. And it's not necessarily a stretch to call it the cornerstone, but again, I could not find where it's actually listed as the cornerstone. Anybody have any questions?
Al, this is Cynthia, and
Cynthia.
This is a trick question, because I had C at first, because it does lend to a couple of areas within the Human Resource Department, like continuous improvement, watching the employment markets, benefit trends, and the work conditions of employees. All of that comes under human resources, and you can use job analysis for those purposes.
Sure, absolutely.
In the textbook, I saw that job analysis was primarily used for wage levels. I mean, to gauge, what
yes.
a competitive wage would be. So I crossed out C and circled A. So if I was the book,
I struggled with this one because A was my first pass also. So again, as we've talked about in previous classes, sometimes they're throwing things in that I can't necessarily give you a 100% concrete answer. I would hope that maybe this is one of those throwaway ones.
Okay.
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 I'm going to go just through people that are signed on. Jerry, do you want to take number 2?
Sure, I can take that one. Comparative methods of performance appraisal that compare one manager to another to determine performance ratings are solely based on desired organizational outcomes, are time-consuming and useful only for relatively small groups of employees, are objective measures of performance, require the use of only one rater to achieve consistency of measurements. In this particular case, I would choose C. Our objective measures of performance.
I would concur with you, except they don't concur with us. The answer they have is B.
Time-consuming and useful only for relatively small groups of employees.
Right, and just so you understand, B, I'm not necessarily sure about the time-consuming component, but the relatively small group of employees does make sense. When you're working in a comparative method of performance appraisal, once the group gets too large, it gets very difficult to do the comparative method, because if you're talking with 10 to 15 people and more, now you're trying to stack people or compare people, and it gets more difficult. Again, I'm not quite sure where the time-consuming part comes in, but the relatively small group is a correct component. I'm not desired organizational outcomes. That would be a false statement, because you're not trying to get a desired organizational outcome. You're trying to at least compare people. Our objective measures of performance. The issue there with that one is that you're not necessarily taking objective measures of performance. You're just comparing measures of performance. So that then made a little bit more sense when I started looking at it. Require the use of only one rater to achieve consistency of measurement. That is a valid statement, but it's not necessarily, doesn't help in comparing one manager to another. It does not necessarily require to have the one. So when you start whittling it down, B ends up being the correct answer. And again, except for the time-consuming component, does relate to the small group of employees.
Yeah, that whole time-consuming component really throws you off almost from the door.
It does. If they're talking about time-consuming, because when you're comparing, you really got to compare one at a time to each other, it does extend the process. But if you're talking about a relatively small group of employees, it doesn't really take that long. So again, the first two were a little confusing for me, even as an HR person. Barbara, you want to take the next one?
Not really. No, I'm kidding. This area is not my weakness, major weakness.
That's okay.
A system for providing reward for improvement in productivity should, A, be group-based to reinforce teamwork and cooperation. B, focus on non-financial rewards only. C, be integrated into the organization's employee appraisal system. D, focus on both non-financial and financial rewards. Okay, so they're looking for improvement in productivity, and they want to reward that. So the A is saying it should be group-based, so that it reinforces teamwork, cooperation. Okay. I'm not loving that. Put that aside for a minute. Focus on non-financial rewards only. No, I'm not liking that either necessarily. Be integrated into the organization's employee appraisal system. Well, that I kind of like. Reward for improvement in productivity. Focus on both non-financial and financial rewards. Well, I like C and D, so now it's a matter of which do I like better, C or D. A system for providing reward for improvement in productivity. I don't know. I'm going to guess D.
We have a winner.
Oh, good, because that was a big guess.
Yeah, and you're right about A and B. A, as group-based, does not have to be a group-based to be a reward system. Non-financials, yeah, if you're doing non-financials, you got to actually have a mix between the financials and non-financials. C, integrated with the organization's employee appraisal. It can be, but it's not required to be. It can be as a standalone. Your performance appraisal can be much more encompassing about performance. But when you're talking about productivity, it does not have to be tied into the evaluation system.
Okay.
Good job. Okay, we've got Frank. Are you on?
Yeah, I'm on.
You want to take 4?
I will give it a shot here. Vertical job enlargement. A, gives individual workers responsibility for control of decision-making over task-related decisions. B, has been universally accepted by all employees. C, must involve supervisor and subordinate in a participative process. D, expands an individual's job by assigning additional steps in the production process. B is definitely out. All is just too big of a word, so I eliminated that. C is it doesn't appeal to me as an answer for whatever reason, just my gut saying that. I like D and I like A, but I'm going to go with A.
You know, I have problems with this one. I'll tell you why. The definition for A is not job enlargement. The actual definition of A is job enhancement. When you give individuals additional responsibility over decision making, that's usually a job enhancement. But usually job enhancement is considered vertical, and job enlargement is considered horizontal. So why they put vertical job enlargement confused the bejesus out of me.
Okay.
The answer they actually have is C. Job enlargement, and then again, let me make sure, job enlargement is giving somebody more breadth of responsibility, but not necessarily in decision making. Job enrichment includes more decision making. So the example that I'll use is a registrar. A registrar who was just registering endoscopy patients, and because they get better and may be able to do more, is now being asked to not only do endoscopy patients, but also maybe cardiovascular or radiology. They expand their job, make it larger in that regards. Where job enhancement, not only would they be doing endoscopy registrations, but they may also be asked to do some financial counseling or some things that may be beyond what they were initially doing. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
But where they got into the job enlargement, it really has to be at both the employees and the supervisor's participation. Not saying that a supervisor can't just go in and say, I want you to do more. That's not job enlargement to the employee. A job enlargement is giving an employee more because they're so good at what they're doing, they're now able to expand themselves. So if a supervisor is just giving more for them to do, it's more, you know, a business sense than what's in the definition of a job enlargement. Okay.
Okay, well, so what's just one more time, I'm sorry, because again, this is not, what's the enhancement again? The enhancement is what?
For a job enlargement, it's giving them more responsibility, but of the same type of work that they were doing.
That's enlargement.
That's enlargement.
And
enhancement is giving them more work, but in a different context than what they were doing.
Okay, and what does the vertical and the horizontal have to do with those two, with the enhancement and enlargement?
Well, that's where it gets confusing. I'm not sure why they're calling it vertical job enlargement. Anything that I've ever dealt with in HR called job enlargement a horizontal, because what you were doing was just expanding what they were doing sideways.
Right, exactly.
Same job, just doing it, you know, adding more to it. Where enhancement, vertical, you were giving them a higher level of responsibility.
Right. Got it. Yeah, so that throws you off. Another little word to throw you off.
Yeah, that vertical absolutely threw me off.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Norm, are you back on yet?
I'm back.
You want to take number 5?
Okay.
Nobody's happy with any of these.
No, you figure that they're going to screw you up somehow with a trick question or word, so, you know. Okay, well, anyway, a stopgap measure that a health service executive might use to manage intergroup conflict, which allows people to cool down and regain perspective, is, the answers are smoothing, bargaining, integrative problem-solving, and appealing to subordinate goals. So the thing that kind of stuck out here right now that is a word is smoothing, just because I don't know what smoothing is. It just didn't seem like a good technical term for something. Bargaining is something that probably comes further on down the line when all else has failed. I like the idea of integrative problem solving and appealing to subordinate goals. I wasn't sure about that, but now I go back to the question, and it's a stopgap measure that you might use to manage a conflict, and it allows people to cool down and regain perspective. So I'm going on the regain perspective. So I like the idea of problem solving, and this way both teams get together to solve a problem with an outside group, with an outside individual, rather than just each party trying to do their own problem individually. So I'll go with C, and 10 to 1 it's smoothing.
It is smoothing.
Can you scroll down a little bit?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's smoothing.
It is smoothing.
That's so funny. I mean, that was the thing that stuck out as being so totally, like, I had no idea what smoothing is.
I know what a smoothie is.
I like smoothies, but I got to tell you, I did as much research over the last couple of days trying to find out what is smoothing. I can't find it. I've got a couple of the ACHE books. I got 2. It's not listed anywhere there.
Is this old? Is this an old?
An old book?
Yeah.
An old technique.
I think the book I have is within the last year.
Oh my.
So I'm struggling with it. I would have gone with actually D, appealing with subordinate goals, because that is a technique that when you're trying to get people to calm down and be focused, you're trying to get common goals. But I can't give you guys an answer on smoothing.
Smoothing. Okay, I never heard of it.
Remember that term when this question comes up.
Yeah, but that's basically where you're headed.
Okay, I'll take number 6. Work groups informally govern the amount of quality of work of individuals within the group through A, performance norms, B, behavior norms, C, standard operating procedures, D, job descriptions. And when I looked at this question, actually all 4 of them to me have some absolutely have things that help, that could be part of this answer. So I went back to the question, work groups informally govern the amount. Job descriptions are formal. Standard operating procedures are formal. Formal. So that got me to A and B, performance norms and behavior norms. And I ended up on A, performance norms, because of the fact then we start talking about amount and quality of work. And performance would be the amount and quality of work an individual within a group does. So I went with A and actually got lucky. A was the right answer. Who had B?
I chose B.
Okay, behavior norms would not. Again, I don't think it's not a bad answer, but behavior does not necessarily amount to quality of the work. When you talk about performance in an informal setting, you can see departments who informally challenge each other in their performance. You know, they kind of monitor themselves.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I went with B as well, and I just read way too much into the question. I was looking at it from almost like a sociological aspect of what it is, and the behavior would be the barometer, so to speak.
To some, and I can't give you an argument with that. I think behavior norms does appear out there, but behavior is more geared toward how they act around each other, how they interact with other people. Those are more the behaviors, not necessarily the performance.
How many questions are on this section?
Well,
22, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what it says. Yeah, 22 questions. Look, guys, I live this world, and these things were tough for me.
You're not selling it to us.
I know. I'm trying. Jerry, do you want to do number 7?
Sure, I'll take 7. As a minimum, an organization demonstrates good faith in collective bargaining with the union by A, appointing a representative who may not have the power to negotiate agreements to meet with the union. B, rejecting union proposals without having to offer counter proposals. C, bargaining individually with employees, offering them individual contracts even though bargaining has been requested by the majority representative. D, receiving union proposals and meeting with the union from time to time to discuss the proposals. Well, if you're acting in good faith, I would immediately discount B, rejecting union proposals without offering a counter proposal. Yeah,
but we like that one so much.
Well, you know, I go to Temple, right? So, appointing a representative who may not have the power to negotiate agreements to meet with the union. It doesn't seem like it fits. It doesn't really make a lot of sense if you're trying to reach some type of agreement. Number C, bargaining individually with employees. I mean, that kind of defeats the overall purpose. So just based on that analysis, I actually went with D.
That is correct.
Thank God.
Yeah, we had one. Yeah, actually, that one's pretty. The first 3 are items that would not be classified as good faith negotiations. I think they're pretty obvious. Good job, Jerry.
That one should definitely be on the test.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's hope. That's smoothing in that one.
Yep. Barbara, you want to take number 8?
Sure. Let's see. The major benefit of the integrative dimension of negotiation over the distributive dimension, oh boy, is that the A, value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is increased. B, value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is decreased. C, complexity of the negotiation process is simplified. D, amount of resources to be distributed is increased, allowing both parties to reach their reservation prices. Okay, what the heck did I just read? Let me see here. The major benefit of the integrative dimension of negotiation over the distributive dimension is that A, the value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is increased. Value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is decreased. Oh my God. Complex. Ooh, yeah, I don't even know if I understand the language. Complexity of the negotiation process is simplified. Amount of resources to be distributed is increased, allowing both parties to reach their reservation prices. Okay, I have
Barbara,
no idea.
let me do this.
I have no idea what I'm answering.
Okay, before you answer, let me do this. Let me give you a couple definitions.
Okay.
First of all, integrative dimension is when you're looking at a situation between 2 parties, let's say union and non-union, and you're starting to think out of the box of what can happen. You're not limited to a dollar amount. You're not limited to a, well, I'll call a pie. If you think of, a whole pie, somebody gets either more than half, somebody gets less than half, or somebody gets half, but the pie is the pie. In an integrative dimension, you have more than you have an opportunity to go out more than the pie. In the distributive dimension is the pie. You only have so much to distribute, and whatever you distribute, that's all you can distribute.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the major benefit of the integrative dimension of negotiation then, the major benefit then is that the value of the best alternative is increased, the value is decreased. The complexity is simplified, the amount of resources to be distributed is increased. Well, I don't know if the value of the best alternative is necessarily increased just because, like, the major benefit, like, in other words, what you just explained to me, the fact that you can go greater than the pie, thank you for explaining that because I had no clue. The major benefit of that pie, let's say, over the non-pie,
right,
is that the value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is increased, or the value of the best alternative to a negotiated agreement is decreased. I don't know that that necessarily is the case just because of the pie versus the non-pie. I don't know. And I don't know that the complexity is simplified, but again, I don't know what I'm talking about. So maybe I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm talking about. So I think my best guess would probably be I have no idea. Help.
Barbara, can I offer a suggestion?
Yep.
This is Cynthia.
You can answer it if you'd like, Cynthia, because I don't have a clue.
Okay,
I would do eeny, meeny, miny, mo in this case.
I looked up the terms because I had no idea as well. And I came up with, for integrated dimension, I came up with a definition of like a collaborative win-win sort of situation. And
correct.
The distributive dimension as a win-lose. They're not going to get exactly what they're bargaining for. They may get something, but they're not going to get exactly what they wanted to. They came into the negotiations for. So I selected C because if it's going to be integrated dimension over the distributed dimension, the complexity of the negotiation process is going to be simplified. There's not going to be as much back and forth. That's the only reason why I selected that. It's, they're going to come to agreement because it's a collaborative sort of arrangement. They're not looking to go head to head going into it. Both parties are coming into the negotiations
because there's more to offer. Is that why?
I guess it's just they're deciding. Both parties have decided that they're going to be fair and they're going to work this out so that both parties get what they want. That's how I look at it. I don't know. I may be wrong.
It's a good thought process. The actual answer is D. The amount of resources to be distributed is increased. And Cynthia, just for what you were saying, it does make sense. But the reality, when you start talking about an integrative dimension of negotiation, because you're tending to think out of the box, you have to be open to other discussions, and it can be complex at times.
Okay. Okay.
You may not always know what you're going to end up with. You just know you're trying to get there, so you end up having more discussions around it. They're usually calmer. They're usually more passionate and not as anger.
Mm-hmm.
But they usually do end up being more complex as a result.
Okay.
Just so you know, value of best alternative to a negotiated agreement. When you talk about a value of best alternative, the value is based on each party's value. So you don't know whether it's increased or decreased because each party has a perspective to it. So if I'm the hospital valuing out what the best alternatives is, that's my value. That's not necessarily the union's value. Does that make
Right.
sense for everybody?
So A doesn't have a meaning then. A or B are meaningless.
Not in this regards, no, because
Oh.
you know, I may end up with a benefit, but it may not be the same benefit for the union.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the value, it may be an increase for me. It could be a perception of decrease for them.
For them, right. Okay, yeah. Okay.
So that's why D comes out, because ultimately the amount of resources, what you're trying to get for both parties, is increased. You know, and they can reach what the reservation point is what they hope they would actually achieve. That's a tough one.
I don't know. That doesn't make sense to. Well, I don't understand it, because how can you assume that the amount of resources is going to increase? I don't know.
Well,
maybe
you're trying to find alternatives that help both parties reach that. It's not always. It may not always be possible that you can, but you're at least on the same page during the discussion to try to maximize as much as possible.
Okay.
When you talk about integrative dimension and distributed dimension, it's almost a state of mind as you enter the negotiations.
Okay.
I know I have a lot of homework to do in this book.
Good discussion. Frank, you want to take number 9?
Yeah, I'll take 9. As managerial vacancies occur, the availability of well-trained individuals who understand the organization's mission, values, culture, and strategy is enhanced by A, the use of executive search firm to fill managerial vacancies, B, rotation of managerial responsibilities among the organization's executives, C, the use of an effective succession planning program, D, uniform management development program for mid-level and senior-level managers. I'm just going to go to the one that I chose that seemed to be the most eloquent here is C, the use of an effective succession planning program.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yep.
Good answer.
Good. I got one.
Hey.
Just to break it down, A, the executive search firms, they're not going to have a history of the mission, vision, and values. Rotation of managerial responsibilities adds no understanding of that. Uniform management development, the key word there is uniform. As you start getting into management development, the last thing you want to do is make it uniform. You want to be as tailored as possible to enhance and enrich the development of your managers. Okay. Norm, you still there? Want to do 10?
Okay, the oldest and most widely used performance appraisal procedure are the continuous scale and the equitable scale, discrete scale, field rating, behaviorally anchored rating. I don't know any of this, but I have heard things continuous and discrete being used in another situation, so I'm going to go with B.
You are correct.
Hey.
It's just continuous and discrete are yeah. Continuous and discrete are fairly similar. What you have on a continuous scale is a series of numbers, and the reviewer can pick any of the numbers, say it's from a 1 to a 10, and it's just a numbers rating. There's no value to each of them, any of those numbers. It just says 1 is low and 10 is high. A discrete scale gives you a little bit more definition as to what those numbers might mean. So a 1 might be poor, a 2 might be does not meet, 3 is meets, 4 is something, and 5 is outstanding. I struggled with an equitable scale and field rating scale. I couldn't find a lot of, actually I can find nothing on either of those. A behaviorally anchored rating is if you have a descriptor of what you're expecting from somebody. Say you're talking about productivity and you actually have a descriptor that somebody who is outstanding, this is the attributes that they have to be considered outstanding, and it's very well spelled out. And somebody that's considered meets, these are the attributes that they have if they meet that scale. And if they're poor, these are the attributes of why they are poor to meet that scale. So it's not numbered, but it's actually spelled out as to what the attributes are that that person would have. But the continuous indiscrete are the most commonly used and the oldestly used. Good job on that. Okay, back to me. Oh, no, Cynthia, do you want to take 11?
Okay, I'll give it a try. A successful healthcare organization usually has a unique and well-articulated company philosophy that presents a clear picture of the organization's objectives, norms, and values. Employee motivation to support this philosophy would be greatest when the company, A, maintains a program that provides employees with a wide variety of social, cultural, and recreational activities. B, emphasizes financial rewards, including a strong employee benefits. C, provides a training program that is well communicated, understood by employees, and enforced by executive management. D, continues a major effort to articulate employees' rights in such areas such as grievances, affirmative action, and human rights issues. Well, I'm going to eliminate D. That has to do with the organization's objectives, norms, and values. It's usually stated in the training program, so I'll leave that C alone for a little while. B, I don't think the financial rewards and employees, well, I don't know, maybe it does. I'll have to come back to B. Let's see. Social, cultural, and recreational activities, I don't think that has anything to do with objectives, norms, and values. Oh, boy. I'm going to select C. Just if it's well communicated, doesn't mean it's understood in the training program. Usually in the training program you get so much information, though, that, but then it says, and enforced by executive management. So I'll select C.
You are correct. And the key there is the communication and enforced by executive management. When you're trying to make sure that your organization's objectives, norms, and values, it has to be started from the top and communicated to the bottom. Good job. Well, good thought process.
Good answer, good answer.
Good answer. Okay, I'll take 12. In the field of healthcare services, which of the following trends has significantly increased the need to develop more comprehensive and more systematic credentialing process in healthcare facilities? A, the increased number of independent healthcare practitioners. B, the expansion of governmental regulations covering the operation of healthcare facilities. C, the growth of ambulatory healthcare services. And D, the growth of liability of healthcare facilities for malpractice by healthcare practitioners. Since we've had this question before, I think I jumped right to D, and D is the correct answer.
Right.
Again, I'm not sure why this falls under HR. I guess they're feeling it has dual allegiance in the testing world. Did anybody have any questions, though, on D being the answer? Everybody okay? Jerry, you want to take 13?
I'll take 13.
No.
Which of the following activities best help identify the most efficient staffing patterns for a healthcare organization? A, periodic job analysis to determine productivity levels. B, review of industry standards by region. C, desk audit of job descriptions. And D, frequent on-site visits to work locations. Okay, so let's see what we're looking for. Efficient staffing patterns for a healthcare organization. Okay, staffing patterns. I would immediately eliminate C. So, desk audit of job descriptions. Frequent on-site visits to work locations. I would eliminate that as well. I don't think that really gets to the crux of what we're trying to determine here. So I'm stuck with A and B. That's a tough one. It's staffing patterns. That's tough. You know what? It may. You're going to an organization. You're trying to determine what their staffing patterns are. Needs for individuals. It may very well be D. Maybe D. I'm stuck between. Kind of stuck between B and D. If I were to take a stab at it, I would go with. I would go with B. Review of industry standards. Yeah, that's tough. Standards. That's tough, Alan.
It is a tough one. The review of industry standards probably is happening more and more as people are trying not to reinvent the wheel. They're looking at more other companies, but it's not necessarily, the key there is not by region. I mean, Shore Memorial as a hospital is not any different than, you know, one of the hospitals in the region, but we're not necessarily that different from other hospitals in the country. So when we look at benchmarking, we're looking at, you know, benchmarks outside of the South Jersey area. But the answer is actually A. And if you go back to question number 1, the major value of job analysis, this is one of those major values. You know, periodically going back to determine, is the job that they're doing efficient and effective to be able to increase productivity levels.
So it's A.
Ultimately, you may review your benchmarks, but if the benchmark says that they're doing it better somewhere else, you got to go back and look at the job to find out how they're doing it and what they can do differently to be more productive. So B has some relevancy, but the actual, you know, that job analysis is going to be the most important thing. Okay. Barbara, you want to take another stab there?
Sure.
14?
I don't struggle too much. Okay. 14. In a sound human resources program, the primary purpose of the job classification system is to A, develop position descriptions for employees, B, establish a total wage and salary administration program, C, rank jobs by kind and level of work performed, D, define an effective organizational structure. Oh, come on. Okay, so this is a sound human resources program versus one that isn't sound. The primary purpose of the job classification system is to, the primary purpose, not a secondary purpose, primary. I'm going to say the primary purpose is to establish a total wage and salary administration program, B. That's my final answer. I would think that's got to be the primary purpose.
No, actually it's C, ranking the job. Job classification is part of the salary administration, but it's not the primary purpose of the salary and wage administration.
Okay, so primary is C, and secondary is B?
I can't disagree with that.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Just in case they word the question secondary purpose.
Again, just for a definition, what you're doing in a job classification is trying to classify it by other like jobs within the organization.
Uh-huh.
So So you can start, nurse's aide in, one of your med surge floor, and maybe a nurse's aide in your home health area versus a secretary, or not a secretary, but an assistant down in radiology. Are their jobs similar in nature, just in different areas, and can they be classified as similar, which then allows you to start ranking them with the kind of level of work that they perform? Ultimately, it does fall up under the wage and salary administration, but it would not be the primary purpose.
Yeah. It's like the cart before the horse. Got it.
Right. Frank, you want to go to 15?
Yeah, that'd be fine. The establishment of appropriate credentialing procedures for members of medical professional staff should ultimately be a decision of the A, entire medical professional staff, B, credentialing committee or credentials committee, C, governing authority, D, medical professional executive committee. And I went with C on this one.
Yeah, again, we've had this question before, so it is C.
Yeah.
The board, the governing authority, sets the ultimate decisions. Good job.
Thanks. 40. Got that 4 right.
There we go. Norm, you want to do 16?
Okay, let's see if I can do this quickly. I have to get on a call here. 16. Okay. 16? 16.
Yep.
Okay, the governing authority of a healthcare facility can terminate the privileges of any member of the medical professional staff, A, at any time if it follows its own adopted procedures, B, at any time with or without due process, C, only if termination is recommended by the medical professional executive committee, or D, only if termination is recommended by the medical professional staff. Okay, the governing authority of a healthcare facility, so we're looking for the governing authority, can terminate at any time of its own adopted procedure at any time. When it says B, I'm eliminating B because it's at any time with or without due process. Quiet. Okay, this dog is...
He's just agreeing with you.
Okay, this is what the dog is saying. C. I'm going to go with C. Only if termination is recommended by medical professional executive committee.
Do you remember we had a question before?
Yeah, we talked about this one before too, and we were between A and C before. But again, as long as they're following the Board of Governors' own procedures, they can terminate at any time. So the medical professional executive committee can recommend, or they may not recommend, but it's ultimately up to the board's procedures that they have to follow.
I'll remember that one for the next time. Okay.
Cynthia, you want to take number 17?
Okay.
See you guys.
Okay.
See you, Norm.
See you, Norm.
See you, Norm. And Norm's dog.
And Norm's dog.
The critical incident technique for employee performance appraisal requires raters to select a statement that fits the performance characteristics of individual. B, select the highest and lowest performing employee in a work unit. C, record the degree to which the behaviors are performed. D, record behaviors of employees that relate to both good and poor performances. Okay. I'm going to eliminate D. I don't think that it's going to require that you record the behaviors of good and poor performances. C, record the degree to which specific behaviors are performed. Okay, C sounds somewhat okay. Select the highest and lowest performing employee in the work. I'm going to eliminate B. One statement that fit performance characteristics of individuals. I'm going to select C.
Well, it is D.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Wow.
and actually, that is the true definition. It's almost looking at a definition. A critical incident technique is the recording of behaviors of employees that are related to both good and poor performance.
Okay.
I mean, it's one of those that you would have to know what the definition of critical incident is.
Okay. All right, well, now I know.
Now we got that one. Okay, I'll take the last one, unless anybody wants to fight me for it. Many hospitals develop affiliations with college-based nursing education programs to, A, improve the image of the hospital in the community, B, improve access to qualified graduates, C, provide financial support to higher education, D, gain the services of low-cost trainees. Improve the image of the hospital in the community. I got to tell you, if you do something with the college and develop it, it does help you, but it's not the primary reason. Provide financial support to higher education. I don't think we're in the hospital business to provide financial support to higher education. Gain services of low-cost trainees. That doesn't happen either. The answer is B, improve access to qualified graduates. And you know, as an HR person, it is absolutely essential that healthcare facilities work with college-based nursing programs.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, HR is a little more complicated than what we might think of HR. And even, as I said before, living in this business, some of these questions were very confusing to me.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I wish I could be some more comforting on that. I would tell you, please review the PowerPoint. You guys will probably have questions based on some of the PowerPoint. Feel free to email me, call me, and when I send the answers out tomorrow, I will send my email and phone number out that I can be called or contacted at any time, so I can provide assistance. Again, some of this is intuitive, some of this is just some homework that we have to do to get comfortable with it.
Are you sure, Alan? Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even have the opportunity to look at the PowerPoint presentation yet. So, you sure you don't mind a question or two via email?
No, I live this. I'm more than happy. That's why I volunteered to take this one.
Okay. All right, because I just didn't get the opportunity to, I didn't have the time to look at it yet, so.
It is, and it's a large, I mean, it's 45 slides, so there's a lot of information there.
Okay, that's great. Okay, and other than this book, Alan, the book that I have yet to read also, which I'm going to, this is like my weakest link.
Which one do you have, the Well-Managed Healthcare Organization?
Well, no, I have that one, and that I've read, but I mean the one that's the Human Resources in Healthcare.
Right.
The third edition, Human Resources in Healthcare.
Yep.
That one I haven't read yet, but that's a book you recommend, though.
That's the one that has more of the information.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Great.
Okay, Jerry, that's it for me.
Thank
Okay,
you.
great.